بس في الاخر كنت عمال احل ثقه وبقول لا انا هرجع بص اكون جبت قفلت
هو عامة بجد this is the tricky part اللي في آخر كام question إن هم كمان put some of the choices اللي هم most common people أو people would commonly do the same mistake ف they put that choice in the choices يعني they make you feel you're on the right track and then you suddenly realize you're not.
انا عارف كتير قوي بصراحه.
عارف تقلقش هنتصرف. طيب let's start with the first one there. It says students and adults from Western High School visited an amusement park on a field trip. The amusement park charged $25 for each adult. Apparently, there are adults and they charge $25. Yes, yeah. Oh, Ida, you can't see the screen, صح? Mm. 1 second. As I said, thank you, حبيبتي. So the amusement park charged $25 for each adult tickets and then $20 for each student ticket. So there are adults and there are students, and this one costs $20. I'm just trying to write all the information on the side and it's very organized so that I can return back to them. And most of the time, if you organize it right, خلاص, you know what to do. They then said before the trip, the students were given this information about the Happy Dragon roller coaster. The average speed of the roller coaster is 50 miles per hour. I'll stop here. So I'll write the speed of the roller coaster is 50, and these are the miles in 1 hour. Any rate, we're going to write it into this form, 50 and then an arrow hours. So we know that this entire column goes for the miles and this entire column goes for the hours. Then, yes, يا حبيبي.
دي فكره كام؟
دي paper 8, sorry.
ما حلتش ايه انا بدات من 9.
That's fine. We only one ride of the roller coaster track is completed in 2.25 minutes. برضو I'll write that in the one ride is done in 2.25 minutes. That's another rate. And then a graph showing the height above level, مش عارف ايه, with respect to the time into the right, and so on. So this is the graph. When you look at that graph, you can tell these are seconds, and this is the height of that roller coaster during that time. They're asking you which of the following values is closest to the total distance traveled in miles during one complete ride on the roller coaster track. So we'll get back to the givens that we've just written over here. If we'd like to know the distance that we've covered in one ride, so let's try and figure it out. The one ride covers 2.25 minutes. Now, I need to know in that 2.25 minutes, how many miles did that cover? So I'll have to use this rate now that has the miles with the time, but I can't use 50 miles 1 hour with minutes. So I have to change from 1 hour to make it 60 minutes instead. And under the minutes, I'll put the 2.25 and I'll cross multiply to get the miles covered during that time of 2.25. So on a calculator, you're going to put 50 multiplied by 2.25 and then divided by 60 so that it's in minutes. Let me do that on a calculator, معلش. This is 1.87, so it's 1.9. Is that okay? Moving on to 36. It says the roller coaster at a height of at least 235 feet for a total of 5 seconds during each complete ride. Which of the following is closest to the percent of the time? So whenever I see the word percent, I know there is a rule for that. It's basically 1/3 over total. The percent of what? It's the percent of the time during a complete ride that the roller coaster is at a height of at least 235. So how long was it? Was it at least 235? It was there for 5 seconds. So the wanted is 5. over the total seconds that the ride takes. If I know for a fact that this ride takes 2.25 minutes entirely, I can change that to seconds first by multiplying by 60. So 2.25 multiplied by 60 will get me 135. I'll put here this as the total. 5 over 135 multiplied by 100, that would get you 3.7%. The closest is 4. You understand how this thing again works? This is one of the يعني الرخمين شوية when it comes to the group questions دول اللي هم بيبقوا على نفس الانفورميشن. بصراحة ده سؤال رخم شوية لأنه it uses yes أولا في givens كتير فوق مش حاجة صغيرة و it keep trying to change the units that you were given at the very beginning in every single question. Let's check 37. It says which of the following values is closest to the average slope of the graph on the interval between 40 seconds and 90 seconds. So I'll go back to the graph and check. From 40 seconds, here's 40. It started here until 90 seconds. This is the 90. So it stopped here. They want to know the slope of that line. So what we can do is we start calculating the rise over the run. Or we can calculate the points and do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I'll show you both. If we're going to use the slope as rise over run, and we're going to calculate the rise at the A, will run at the A, count, sorry, the rise and the run, we'll just count. Min this point to the other point, we came up 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the rise. Over the run, which is 20 seconds, 1, لا actually 2 يعتبر 4 5. ليه أنا بعمل okay, so let me explain. أنا مشكلة الكاونتنج إن أنا لو حبيت أعمل rise over run وأعد know إنه when you count every one of those steps is 50. ده اللي مكتوب على الواي axis. وهنا تحت every one of those steps is 20 seconds. So you either put that into consideration واحنا بنعمل rise over run, or the other option ان انا اعمل y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 العادية. يعني because this point is at 90 on the x and 250 at the y, so that's x and y. Well, this point is at 40 at the x and 50 at the y, so that's the other x and y. You can do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and that would get you to 100 over 50. Which I think is 4, if I'm not mistaken. Let me check. Yep. 4 is the correct answer. Now لو حبيت أعملها تاني بالcounting زي ما أنا قلت, in this case we have to say إنه this is a rise of 1, 2, 3, 4 but 4 times 50. So the rise is still 200. والrun هو 1, 2 and a half, but 2 and a half times 10. يعني over, لا مش 2 and a half actually بقى كده. Every one of those, this is 20, 20, and 10. So that's a total of 50. So 200 over 50. We either count it بالnumbers والvalues بتاعتهم, or we do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. They both should have to get you the same answer. Do you understand this one, or I got you confused?
Yes.
We're good, yeah. We check 38. It says the value of this is between which of the following numbers when x is equals 10. So we're just going to substitute x with 10. بس I want to check. ممكن حد فيكم يقول لي على الكالكوليتر العادي بتاعكم بيعمل ايه عشان انا I'm using the app on the phone, so I know it sometimes gives me a bigger or it calculate things that are not calculated on the other one. So would you tell me بس if what is the answer for that on your own Casio calculators?
Could I say 81? 81 or 5 zeros?
81 or 5 zeros? Okay. So it got you, this is basically 8,100,000, صح?
Yes.
Awesome. So the 8,100,000 دي يعني هي ال 8 million يعني 8 وجنبها 6 zeros. So I can actually write 8 million نفس الطريقة كده 8 million أو أكتبها as 8 multiplied by 10 to the power of 6 because 10 to the power of 6 لوحدها يعني million. So when you say 8 times 10 to the power of 6 يعني 8 million. Because this is 8,100,000, then the answer that we got is between 8 million and 9 million. So J has to be the correct answer. Does this make sense? So again, here 10 to the power of 6 on its own, يعني 1 million. So we can write the 1 or 10 million or 8 million or 7 million in that form. We can say 7 times 10 to the power of 6. This is 7 million على طول. If we say 21 times 10 to the power of 6, that's 21 million, and so on. Because the answer came out as 8,100,000, then the answer is between the 8 million and the 9 million. Right. For which of the following data set is the difference between the mean and the median the greatest? طيب, a few things to note. لما يكون عندي أرقام زي الست الأولانية, a set of numbers that has exactly the same numbers, then the mean and the median would be equal to each other. ده لو الأرقام كلها are the same. Also, لو الأرقام have the same constant difference. يعني لو الأرقام consecutive, لو الأرقام ورا بعض, لو الفرق ما بينهم ثابت, برضو هيبقى المين والميديان قد بعض. So كده by looking at A, المين والميديان قد بعض, يعني الديفرنس ما بينهم هيكون زيرو. So there is no point إن أنا أحسب this one. فأبتدي أشوف الباقيين بقى. هنا مثلا أنا عارف إن الميديان هيكون في النص بالظبط between 10 and 15. which is 12.5. This is the median. I can easily بقى calculate the mean on a calculator بأن أنا أعملهم كلهم plus بعض divided عددهم. يعني 10 plus 10 plus 15 plus 20 divided by 4, which will get you 13.75. كده ال difference ما بين المين والميديان is 1.25. لو عملت 13.75 minus 12.5 هيديني difference as 1.25. ده ال difference. I have to check the difference أو do the same for every one of those. هنا مثلا الميديان هيطلع 15. Let's check the mean. It's 10 plus 15 plus 15 plus 15 divided by 3. This is 18.3. So the difference now is 3.3. This one will be the median by 15, but the average will be bigger, way bigger كمان. لأنه it has 100. It would be 35. So this is a difference of 20. And that one would be definitely the biggest. لأنه الميديان is between 20 and 90. يعني 20 plus 90 over 2. The median is 55, while the mean is 10 plus 20 plus 90 plus 100 over 4. That's 55 as well. Actually, they're exactly the same. So the biggest is D, definitely. Do we guys understand? خلاص? So بس the first one we skipped actually calculating the mean والmedian فيها because they're exactly the same number. Just for the first one. بس الباقيين كلهم are we have to actually calculate the mean والmedian when check the difference can, the biggest difference is the one we select. Now check this. It says Pablo has a deck and a pool in his backyard. The deck's shape is a rectangle with a semicircle removed and is shown shaded in the figure below. The lengths of the straight sides of the deck are given in feet. Pablo plans to cover the top of the deck with stain. To decide how much stain to purchase, he needs to find the area of the top of the deck. To the nearest square foot, what's the area of the top of the deck? So this is basically a question where they're asking على the area of the shaded region. And I'm telling you this again, any area of a shaded region, we're always going to get the area of the big shape and then subtract the white part out of it. The area of the white part. So because we're talking about this weird shaded region, I'll get the area of the rectangle entirely, and then remove that half circle from that area. So first we'll get the area of the rectangle, and that's length times width, يعني 20 times 32. This is 640. This is the area of the big shape, 640. Minus, now in order to get the area of the white part that I need to recalculate is half the circle. So I'll get the area of a circle first, which is pi r squared, and then divided by 2. Now let's figure out what's the radius. The radius is this distance here. If this is 32, and this 4, and this is another 4, then I can do 32 minus 8, which will be 24. And 24 is this distance here, اللي هي diameter of that circle, which then gives me that the radius of the circle is 12. So I can put here, instead of the r, 12. That's pi 12 power 2 over 2. Pi 12 power 2 over 2. You put this on a calculator and you'll start getting the answer right away. So 640 minus pi 2 over 2. This is 413.8. 413.8 would be approximated to 414, and that would be your final answer as K. Are we clear, حبايبي?
Yes.
Perfect. Let's move on to 41. You're told this is a 3-foot wide brick sidewalk is laid around a rectangular swimming pool. And it's a 3-foot wide. يعني this distance here is 3, this is 3, this is 3. The outside edges of the sidewalk measures 30 by 40 as shown. What is the perimeter of the swimming pool itself? So if this whole side, this thing is 30, and there's this 3-foot wide here and another 3 on that side, which gives me then that the pool is 26 feet. Again, how did I do that? I basically did 30 minus the 3 and minus the other 3, which got me 26. The same thing will happen to that 40, because there's this 3 here and another 3 here.
minus 6 هتبقى 24 مش 26.
أنا آسف مش عارف أنا عملت كده. 24, and then this one would be 40 minus 6, يعني 34. So this is 34. Now to get the perimeter is the sum of all the sides. So the outer side. So I just have to add, I just have to add 24 and 34 to each other. Twice. And دي برضه 24 ودي برضه 34. $68 plus 48. This is 116. B is supposed to be the correct answer. برضه this is an easy one. You just have to notice الحتة دي من الأول خالص إن هو قال على طول إن البريك sidewalk is 3 feet. Number 42, you're asked to find g of f of x. And we said g of anything, يعني we go for the function that's called g الأول. We remove its x and we substitute the f of x. So that would become 1 over 4 minus, and instead of the x, I'll put the f of x, which is x squared. When you look at the choices, this is choice F as it is. برضو يعني بس to get you to understand this better, لو أنا بقول أنا عايز f of g of x on the other hand, then I'm supposed to go for the function اللي اسمها f. هشيل الx بتاعتها وأحط جواها g, which is 1 over 4 minus x. This is f of g of x. while اللي احنا جبناها is g of f of x. A circle has a circumference of this. What's the area? So we ask ourselves, what do we know about the circumference? The circumference is supposed to be, of any circle, is supposed to be 2 pi r. If the 2 pi r itself is equals to 2 pi root 2, I think it's pretty clear in the radius root 2. If they need me to find the area, now the area of a circle is supposed to be pi r squared. And because I know that the r is root 2, so then it's pi root 2 squared. The power 2 will cross out the root and you'll be left with 2 pi as the final answer. C. I started with what I know, the rule of the circumference. Then I got the radius. Once I have the radius, I can get anything I'd like. In the standard xy coordinate plane, the coordinates of the y-intercept of the graph of the function kaza is this. What are the coordinates of the y-intercept of this function, which is f of x minus 3? What happens if we put this f of x and we subtract minha 3? What kind of change happened? When we subtract from f of x, which is exactly the same as the y, f of x is exactly the same as the y. So if we subtract from f of x 3, it means we moved down 3. Oh, it means we've subtracted from the y فعلا 3. If this is the y coordinate, اللي هي -2, I should subtract minha 3 because it went down. So the new y would become -5, and it would still have the x as 0 because it's a y-intercept. Now, if this was written as f of x plus 3, this 3 is added to the x. Now, this 3 would be calculated or would be considered with the opposite sign. يعني ال 3 دي هتبقى 3 to the left بعكس الساين. بس لو 3 بره كده هنا بلس مثلا 4 مثلا، ال 4 اللي بره دي is 4 up بنفس الساين. So بتوع الواي دول الاب والداون. بتاع الاكس دي كده رايت وليفت، بس الرايت والليفت دايما بيكون بعكس الساين. You're told that this is a parabola. There's a parabola that passes through these 3 points. I mean, the parabola basically looks like this. And clearly the vertex of the parabola would be this. And you have these two. These two are called the x-intercepts. Or they could be also called the roots of the function, or the zeros of the function, or the solutions of the function, or the x values of the function. كل دول نفس الحاجة. So how do we think about this? First of all, we look at this, at the choices that we have. There are some choices that are absolutely incorrect. For example, choice B. Choice B has a bracket with a power of 2 and another bracket with x. This is not even quadratic. This is cubic. This has x to the power of 3. B can never be the answer. C is the same thing. It has a bracket with a power of 2 and another bracket with x. It can't work. D is the same thing, x to the power of 2, and this one is to the power of 1. It can't work. I'm left with A and E. Both of them are quadratic, but when you look clearly, the difference between them is in the sign of the A, the sign that's outside here. This sign is the sign responsible for the shape of the parabola, either to look up or to look down. So this is the form of the quadratic equation of the x-intercepts form. AD, if it is positive, it means that the parabola should look up, but if the A is negative, it means that the parabola should look down. And because this one is looking down, I know for a fact it has to be negative, which gives me A as the correct answer, but E is not. This is a very easy question if we decided to eliminate from the choices as we just did. (46). Now, 46 is one of those questions that is a bit tricky. لأنه honestly, you'll take, or you should get to know things about the infinity and so on in a course called the limits course, or in a topic called the limits, and the limits is most of the time covered. Some schools would cover it in grade 11 by the end of the year, but most schools would cover it in grade 12 at the beginning of the year if you're taking calculus. So not everyone would know this about this question. But I'll try برضو to show you how to think about it without actually the use of the limits. They're saying as x continually increases in value without bound, the value of x over x plus 3 most closely approaches what? So what does that mean? X continually increases in value without bound. Well, if X keep increasing, let's say X is 1, it would keep increasing without bound. Yani it will keep going until it reach infinity. And infinity is actually not a value for that reason, because infinity would still keep going. It's a number that is, oh, it's a value that keeps increasing. So this means I should substitute X with infinity. Yani it's infinity over infinity plus 3. طيب, think. What do you think this should be? If I divide infinity by infinity, but then I added عليها another 3. Well, when I add to the infinity another 3, does it change that much? يعني هتبقى كبيرة بطريقة مختلفة، ما هتبقى infinity برضه، صح ولا لا؟ Again, when I add 3 to infinity, do you think it would still remain infinity ولا تبقى اسمها حاجة تانية؟ No clue what you're supposed to think about this?
Can you repeat تاني معلش؟
If I add 3 to infinity, infinity is a value, or it's not really a value, it represents a never-ending growing value.
over infinity to equal 0.
Is it over infinity بس ولا هي infinity plus 3؟
ماشي بس infinity is not a number يعني حاجة unlimited فلايك مش هي دي answer هتبقى 0 أو infinity.
لا let's think it بس بالراحة. انت you're thinking using limits شوية, بس let me show you actually what do I mean. لو أنا عندي رقم divided by infinity, that is the answer that doesn't make sense. يعني الانسر دي will give me 0, nothing will be left. If I divided 4 up on so many people, increasing number of people, then nothing would be left خالص. But if I divide infinity among 4 people, أو 100 حتى people, أو 140 people, then the answer in this case would be infinity. Every one of them would take infinity. Every one of them would take unlimited amount of numbers. But if I divide infinity by infinity, that's a different story. That's 1. Because when I divide anything by itself, the answer should be 1. So what I was asking you is, do you think when I add 3 to infinity, then does it still remain infinity? ولا هتبقى حاجة غير infinity؟ ما أنا لما add 3 لرقم لحاجة ما بتكبر unlimited, it will still be infinity. يعني because كده infinity means something that will keep increasing. So when I add 3, طب ما اللي فوق كمان كأنها added 3 عادي عليه. يعني the answer in this one is supposed to be 1, because infinity over infinity is 1. أي حاجة divide نفسها is 1. So again, هما ايه 3 cases وايه علاقة ده بقى بالlimits؟ I'll explain it now. الكيس الأولانية, if I divide number by infinity, then no one will get anything. It's a 0. But if I divide infinity among any number of people, or any number whatsoever, everyone will get infinity. Everyone will get unlimited values. If I divide infinity by itself, that's a 1. That's the same thing. That's the same value. طيب, the limits thing بقى. Limits دي المفروض إن في سؤال كده بيقول limits as x approaches infinity, وبعدين بيديني هو functions مختلفة, وعادة بتكون الفانكشنز دي كده rational functions, يعني فيها fractions. How do we solve those? We basically look for the powers of the x. لو الباور اللي فوق قد الباور اللي تحت, then we take the coefficient divided by the coefficient. يعني 1 over 1, which is 1. بس لو الباور اللي فوق أصغر من اللي تحت, in this case the answer will always remain 0. كأني divide by infinity. لو الباور اللي فوق أكبر من الباور اللي تحت, then the answer will always be infinity. كأني بعمل infinity divided حاجة. So أهم ال 3 cases في limits when x is approaching infinity, يا إما الباور اللي فوق هو أكبر من اللي تحت, في الكيس دي الأنسر infinity, يا إما الباور اللي تحت أكبر من اللي فوق, في الكيس دي الأنسر 0, يا إما ال 2 powers قد بعض, في الكيس دي بناخد ال coefficient of the x divided by the other coefficient of the x, which will in this case get me 1. Do you understand all cases ولا مش قوي؟
Yes.
طيب. Let's go to number 47. Yulan will use a bag of 30 solid colored marbles for a game in which each player randomly draws marbles from the bag. The number of marbles of each color is shown in the table below. Yulan will randomly draw 2 marbles from the bag, one after the other, without replacing the first marble. What is the probability that Yulan will draw a black marble first and a green marble second? We already discussed if I need the probability of something and something else, in this case, I'll get the probability of the first and then multiplied by the probability of the second. But if I would like the probability of something or something else, in this case, I'll get the probability of first plus the probability of the second. So let's apply this over here. They're looking for a black marble. So what is the probability of a black marble? The probability of black would be the wanted, اللي هو black, which is 6, over the total that they told me is already 30. Now let's work out the green marble. The probability of green would be the green, which are in total 2, but not over 30, because I've already drawn a marble. So now the total number of marbles have decreased by 1, they're 29. So because they said this and that, all what I'll need to do is 6 over 30 multiplied by 2 over 29 and put this on a calculator. That's 2 over 145. This is the answer, B. It's not a hard question. صراحة. The only trick is that you need to know, because they said without replacing the first marble, then the total number of marbles have decreased. Let's check 48. They're saying this expression is undefined إمتى. So a very important thing to know, in any fraction whatsoever, the answer of it will be undefined in one case only, when b is equals 0. Only if if the denominator is equals to 0, then the answer of the whole fraction is undefined. So they're asking you, when would this be undefined? If the b minus 2c, اللي هو denominator, became equals to 0. They want to know what would be the value of b. So if I need to find b, I should remove the things around the b to the other side of the equal sign, which will give me b equals 2c. And that's k. (49). What number is halfway between 2 over 5 and 8 over 7? If I'd like a number halfway, it's the same as asking for the midpoint. I even think we've solved this question separately in a different form قبل كده. 2 over 5 plus 8 over 7. I add them and then divide them by 2. So on your calculator, you'll just do 2 over 5 الأول plus 8 over 7 على calculator and click equal. And then whatever comes out, you just divide by 2. And that answer would be 27 over 35, which is E. Pretty easy. Midpoint, we just add them and we divide them by 2. The function this, what two real numbers satisfy this? So I'll write f of x is equals this and it's equals that. So I'll make them equal to each other. 3 power x squared minus x minus 2 is equals to 1. Now, one of the very important things to notice إنه أي equation بيكون الفاريبل بتاعها في الباور, we need to make the bases equals to each other. يعني we can't solve unless these two bases are equal to each other. So how do we change the 1 to become 3 to the power of something? Because 3 to the power of 0 or anything to the power of 0 is 1, then I can remove the 1 and instead substitute 3 to the power of 0. Now these two have exactly the same bases. And because they're exactly the same, I can tell that this power must be equals to this power, and I can write them in a different equation. X squared minus x minus 2 is equals to 0. Now this can be done easily on a calculator with mode 5-3, and it would get you to the two answers, the two solutions that would work. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's -1 and 2, which gives me H as the correct answer. فهمنا؟ We have one of two options at this point. We can either خلاص stop here now, or if you're ready to go for one more form, let's do that. So I don't mind both بصراحة لأن I know this is مليانة شوية الforms اللي حليناهم. وبرضو I don't mind if you'd like to do more. I still have time. So whatever you want.
أنا عندي like another lesson ACT2 for biology فمش عارف أكمل.
Okay.
Well, I have on the phone tomorrow, so far.
It's fine.
Study for that.
It's fine. It's fine. خلاص. يلا. See you guys inshallah all next class.
Thank you.
Thank you يا حبايبي. يلا باي باي.